Dappervolk time! Yay! Sylvie's Mine, as well as its Playgrounds minigame, Sylvie's Artifacts, were both added to the game on July 15th after the maintenance period that was only announced a few hours earlier. It goes without saying, but it was pretty exciting to finally have access to the content we've been anticipating for months. And personally, it was even more exciting to discover that Sylvie's Artifacts is based on a game I would drown myself in for hours at a time when I was in college. And that game is 2048. It's a math game. Hey, no, wait. We're not doing geometry or anything. No offense to people who like geometry, but it's the fun kind of math. Addition and deducing simple patterns and all of that. Anyway, you might not remember 2048 by name, but if you were any kind of teenager or adult in 2014, you might vaguely remember this website. It's a site that allows you to create your own unique game of 2048 by uploading custom images. Cool concept for sure, but it got weird. How's that, you ask? We're not gonna go there. Luckily for those of us recovering from that era, Dappervolk's rendition of the game is aesthetically pleasing and there are no supernatural characters or anatomically incorrect anime girls to be found. So let's talk about that instead. 2048 is a sliding puzzle game, and in the case of Sylvie's Artifacts, you've got a 4x4 board to work with. Each turn, you have the option of swiping up, down, left, or right, and every swipe will fill a random tile in the direction you choose with a picture of a stone that has the numerical value of 2. If you combine these stones with other stones that have the same value by pushing them into each other, you'll create a stone with a value of 4. 2 4 stones would create an 8, 2 8 stones would create a 16, and so on. To win and achieve the highest score possible, you have to combine enough matching numerical value stones to create a 2048, though there are plans to update the game so you can go even higher. If you clog up the board and run out of moves in the attempt, you've got to dust yourself off and start all over again. Okay, so before we start on my strategy, let me show you a cool shortcut. Cool? Cool. If you want to beat Sylvie's Artifacts and earn a good potato output for the amount of time you invest in it, you can't play it haphazardly. Instead, you're going to want to keep things as simple as possible, and the way that I do this is by picking a corner for my largest numerical value stone, literally any corner, and keeping it there. This is liberating because you constantly have to worry about where everything is and will be all the time. Leaving your key to victory in the same spot on the board leaves you with one less immensely important thing to sweat. If you look at the footage I'm showing right now, you'll notice that the row my corner of choice is a part of is constantly populated by stones with numerical values that gradually increase in the corner's direction. This is something you'll want to set up too, and you want to constantly be working on creating the kinds of rocks that can combine with the rocks in that row in particular. Your priorities are subject to change by the turn, but it'll usually make the most sense to start by building upon the row's smallest numerical valued rock. That way you can eventually mesh it with the one next to it, the one next to that one, and finally your biggest rock. Something you want to take care not to do is trap low-level stones behind higher ones, like I did here. It's not like it's impossible to fix, but it can get more difficult the busier your board is. So it's always better to err on the side of caution and avoid putting yourself in this situation in the first place. And believe it or not, that's pretty much all there is to it. But here's some other general tips and tidbits before you go. If you can combine more than one set of rocks per move, absolutely prioritize making that move. It's the best way to keep your board from becoming too populated and reserving yourself some wiggle room for when you're in a pinch. Getting stressed out by the sight of the numbers? Don't even look at the numbers. Just look at the pictures. Look at the pretty rocks. Come to understand which rocks are the lesser rocks and which rocks are the more significant rocks. Their design makes that pretty easy to understand anyway. Are you having a hard time visualizing where each rock will end up when you swipe? Play some games exclusively to whip things around and see it with your own eyes. Remember that there's no time limit, so there's no rush. If you need to take a step back and spend a minute looking at the board and considering your options, do it. And lastly, like with a lot of things, especially Dappervolk things, there is a luck element at play. Like I mentioned earlier, you have absolutely no control over which row the stone with a value of 2 will spawn each move, and sometimes they can be troublemakers. On top of that, depending on what your board looks like, a tiny mistake that wouldn't edge you into game over territory in one situation could in another. So if you do find yourself in a compromising position because of the luck of the draw or a thoughtless twitch of the hand, don't worry about it. Take a small break and try again. I promise you'll get better with practice. So play a couple of rounds armed with this new knowledge and let me know what you guys think. Is my strategy effective for you? Was there something I neglected to mention that you like to bear in mind while you play? I'll be all ears in the comments. This will probably be it for Dappervolk related content until the next town is implemented and beta has a designated end date so I can start throwing together some kind of final impressions video. But if you'd like to see more right now, I've currently got another minigame tips and tricks video up for Turnip Thief and Three's Forest Cleanup, which is still pretty useful, albeit kind of outdated, as well as a general Dappervolk beta review, so feel free to check those out and subscribe to see more in the future. Very special thanks to my girlfriend for coaching me at the game herself because she's way better at these kinds of puzzle games than I am. And while I'm at it, thank you for watching. See you next time!